proceeding from across the world. I, Vivekanand Jha, author, academician, and a public intellectual, I greet all of you on this education pe charcha, so on education. This is the seventh session we are going to conduct. And as you people have been watching our proceedings, we have already invited the topmost people from the myriad field of specializations. And my dear viewers, today, the honorable gentleman, one of the topmost think tanks of this country, one of the illustrious advisors to that of India's statesman Prime Minister, whom I reverently consider to be India's greatest Prime Minister, Honorable Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. That is the man today. Our honored guest is none but whom all of you know is a man rich with wisdom, a man very rich with his pen. Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji. He is going to greet and grace and bless our today's proceeding with scintillating and engrossing discussion on multiple aspects of Vajpayee's era, today's contemporary politics, and of course the foreign policy. Because let me tell you, my dear viewers, that Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji basically was the man who was instrumental behind, rather one of the principal architects behind formulating Indo-Pakistan and Indo-China policy during Vajpayee's era. So, we are going to have a very, very scintillating discussion today. But most importantly, my own personal acquaintance, my deepest reverence for respected Sri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji goes back to so many years. But most importantly, in just a year back, I'm talking about 2020, when there was a cloud of war looming over the horizon of Bharat Barsha on account of a serious border confrontation with that of our, the Asian giant neighbor, China. I was one of the most worried persons in the country. Being a thinking citizen, it was really a matter of deepest concern for me as to what the providence held in its store for our beloved republic. Such was the level of my disconcert and my disturbance that I know it is something it would be describable. In those moments of crisis, I got in touch with Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, and I tell you, being a man of principle, man of scruples, which is really the scarcest of scale, commodities in today's era and times, sir had spoken to me for 45 minutes, and he had allayed all my apprehension on the war front. And he said to me, his final sentence, I remember, that Mr. Modi can never risk a war with China. I don't think he would be unwise to risk a war at China. That was his observation. Such was the level of my reassurance on his on his comforting observation, on his comforting sentences, that I had a peaceful sleep at that night. And very next day I shared the gist of my conversation with Sudheendra Kulkarni ji with all my fellow acquaintances and my friends who, like me, were similarly concerned and deeply agitated by the situation unfolding then. So therefore, I just try to mention this very important point because I just want to share the depth of the wisdom of a man who was the principal architect behind framing and formulating Vajpayee government's foreign policy pertaining to Pakistan and pertaining to China. I would like to say one more thing before I invite our honored guest, Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, to share his wisdom with all of us, that he is the man, I tell you, that, I consider myself to be his disciple, because as and when I call upon him, he unfolds his pearls of wisdom to me. The man who is deeply concerned about today's scenario prevailing just across our border, our neighborhood, the sort of unrest which is there in the neighborhood, and therefore just keeping the vision and mission of Atal Bihari Vajpayee forward. He is already spearheaded a movement to bring about, to usher in a peace with both Pakistan and China. And let me tell you, as the questions will start, taking place a moment later. He was the only man, mind you, only Indian to have joined in the Obor session convention of conducted by China, where more than 80 countries had participated in it, but India officially boycotted. But then, even then, Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, overwhelmingly and inordinately concerned by today's scenario, he made it a personal point to be present there so that India should not go unrepresented. That is the vision, a dynamism that Sudheendra Kulkarni ji epitomizes, personifies. And that is why I feel that not only this particular forum, Education Pe Charcha, as well as our viewers who are watching us live, as well as those who will watch this particular video later, will be hugely benefited out of his wisdom that is just about to unfold today in course of our interaction. I would like to say a little bit more before I call upon Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji to unfold his vast wisdom, to all of us. Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, always a rebel for a cause. He is the fewest of you in the country today who goes by his conscience. He is not the man to compromise with his conscience. And that's why it is my designation. I don't know whether sir would agree with me or most of you would agree with me or not, but I designate him as always a rebel for a cause, a nationalist to the core. He can never suppress his voice. He can never let his conscience get subdued by whatsoever cheerleading or whatsoever may be the consensus across the nation. He is not concerned or bothered by that. He is a man who opens his heart if he thinks it is good for the nation. A nationalist to the core who deserves salutations from all of us. Now, just a little bit more. Former aide to Shri Vajpayee, as I already said, he is the founder of the Forum for a New South Asia, powered by India, Pakistan, China cooperation. So now I'm coming to the very first question. I think sir is very much listening to me. Sir is not visible.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Is sir listening to me? Because sir is not visible to me.
Please continue. Sir is joining actually, sir, due to some technical reasons.
Okay.
Please continue.
Let him just join because I'm just about to begin the question.
Please continue, sir.
Okay, sir has joined now. Okay, very good. Sir, my voice is audible to you? Hello, Kulkarni sir, is my voice audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Is sir perfectly okay? Is my voice audible?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
I can hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay, it happens.
The line
no
got
issue,
disconnected.
Sir. No issue. Sir, in your article published in Dawn on 30th of July, which I had the fortune and the privilege to visit and to read it, which you wrote along with Mr. Kasuri, the ex-foreign minister of Pakistan. That is the topics, the very nomenclature or the heading of the topic was Reflections on Pakistan, India, Peace, wherein the highlight is peace efforts must continue because of some unchangeable and inescapable truth. What are those unchangeable and inescapable truths? Sir, now it is your time, your take on this. My viewers would are very longing to hear you. Sir, now it's your take on this.
नमस्कार विवेकानंद जी, सबसे पहले मैं आपका आभारी हूं, आपने मुझे बुलाया इस कार्यक्रम में। मैं आपसे और आपके सभी मित्रों से आज इस कार्यक्रम में सहभागी हो रहा हूं श्रीनगर से। आज मैं श्रीनगर में हूं और श्रीनगर में इंटरनेट कनेक्शन थोड़ा प्रॉब्लमैटिक रहता है, इसलिए वो बीच में कट गया। आई एम वेरी सॉरी फॉर दैट। और मैं अपनी बात इससे शुरू करना चाहता हूं कि आज दोपहर मैं शंकराचार्य जी का दर्शन लेकर आया।
Oh, great, great, great.
हाँ,
Sir, actually
मैं
English.
श्रीनगर
Sir,
में
viewers would like to hear in English. I'm sorry to bother you.
Okay. Friends, it is my honor today to begin my my reflections by telling you that I had a memorable day today, and in one of the memorable days in my life, I had the darshan of Sri Shankaracharya's shrine in Srinagar. Perhaps many of you know that overlooking this beautiful city of Srinagar is a shrine on top of a huge hill where Shankaracharya, a monk from Kerala, born in Kerala, in his short life of 32 years, he travels to 4 corners of India. He comes to Srinagar, Kashmir, and established here. I went to that place and I prayed for peace in Kashmir, peace in India, peace between India, and peace in the world as a whole. By making one more observation, Kashmir is the place where Swami Vivekananda visited. And his visit to Kashmir and his writings and his poems in Kashmir are a part of his very rich legacy. In fact, Sister Nivedita has written a very good book on this subject. Now, Kashmir is, in my view, it's a link, it's a bridge between India and Pakistan. I had come here for the first time accompanying our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. And when he came to Kashmir, journalists asked him a question. There is a problem in Kashmir, and how are you going to solve this problem within the 4 corners, within the framework of the Indian Constitution? आप इस समस्या को भारत के संविधान के दायरे में कैसे आप इसको हल कर सकते हैं? तो अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने जवाब दिया, हम इसे इंसानियत के दायरे में हल करेंगे. We shall solve the problem of Kashmir in the framework of humanism. With this one word, he won the hearts of the people of Kashmir. They felt that here is a prime minister who understands our pain, who understands our feelings, and he's a prime minister who connects with our hearts. Insaniyat. There is no other philosophy, no other idea greater than humanism. The second time he came to Kashmir, he said that we shall solve the problem of Kashmir and we shall also establish good relations with our neighbor Pakistan. And he said that I extend my hand of friendship to the people and the government of Pakistan. That is yet another occasion when he won the hearts of not only the people of Kashmir, but I can tell you, he also won the hearts of the people of Pakistan. They felt that here is a prime minister who is genuinely interested in peace with our country. Now, I am giving this just to come to the article that I have written in Dawn newspaper, which is the most prestigious one, authored with Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri, the former foreign minister of Pakistan. He is my good friend for many years, and we have been working together on the agenda of peace between India and Pakistan. It goes back to the Vajpayee years. And I can tell you that I said that I am in Srinagar today, and all the people that I've spoken to in Srinagar, without exception, irrespective of their political affiliation, they say that the best time we had of reconciliation and resolving the problem of Kashmir was when Vajpayee ji was the Prime Minister. They still remember that. It's nearly 20 years. Why? Because he understood the nature of the problem. He understood that this problem is intrinsically linked with the problem of Pakistan and the way Pakistan was created in 1947 with a partition of India. And unless we have a meaningful dialogue with Pakistan, with both firmness and reasonableness, I want to add both points of Atalji's strategy. On the one hand, firmness and reasonableness. Why firmness? All of us know that when Pakistan indulged in the misadventure of Kargil, they instigated a war on India. He gave a firm reply. The Indian army gave a firm reply to Pakistan, and they realized their misadventure. So firmness, and at the same time, reasonableness. Reasonableness meaning that we have a problem, and this problem cannot be resolved through war, through conflict, through any form of violence, only through dialogue. And that was the greatness of, that is the only way we can resolve our outstanding problems with Pakistan. And that's the only way we can also resolve the problem in Kashmir.
Sir, it's so nice to hear that you are in Kashmir and you just caught a glimpse of great Adi Shankaracharya, the great monist. And I would like to say here, since our honorable guest today, respected Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, has kick-started today's proceeding, just informing all of us that he had a great darshan or glimpse of the greatest mind ever born in the mortal body. This is what the Western philosophers have philosophized great Adi Shankaracharya to be. So, sir, Palkiwala in We the Nation specifically paid a great to Nani Palkiwala, to a great Adi Shankaracharya. So, sir, it's so nice to hear about you. Now, I would like to ask you, because since you are in Srinagar, now in the wake of the abrogation of Article 370 of Indian Constitution, sir, you know about it. I wrote, it was the first book written in the country. The So, sir, what do you see after a year gone by? Situation doesn't seem at all to have improved, because what people of India thought, situation did not turn out in favor of that, and Kashmir still remains disturbed. And recent meeting of all the delegation of Kashmir with the Prime Minister, so situation doesn't appear to be that rosy. Your take on this, because you are very much on the spot now, sir. Your take on this.
Vivekanand ji, you very rightly referred to the meeting that Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji convened last month with the leaders of all the mainstream political parties in Jammu and Kashmir, especially the Kashmir Valley. The three former chief ministers of the state, which is now a union territory, no longer a state, that is Dr. Farooq Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, and Omar Abdullah, and of course many other leaders. In this meeting, convened by the Prime Minister himself, and in the presence of the Home Minister Amit Shah, and of course other important officials, the Prime Minister made a remarkable admission. He said, "Dil ki duri aur Dilli ki duri आज दोनों मौजूद हैं और इन दोनों को हम मिटाना चाहते हैं." Very important words coming from the Prime Minister himself. He said that there is a distance between Srinagar and New Delhi, and there is also a distance of the hearts, the distance between the political establishments of Kashmir and the center, but also distance between the hearts of the Kashmiri people and the rest of India. Dil ki duri, Dilli ki duri. Which means that even though Article 370 was abrogated on the 5th of August 2019, the problem of Kashmir has not been fully resolved. Now, there are many people in India who believe that the government has done the right thing by abrogating 370 and making Kashmir an integral part of India. There are lots and lots of people, not only in the BJP, but also in many other parties in India. Today, I can tell you, friends, that a lot of people that I have spoken to in Srinagar, they do not really demand, they are not so concerned about Article 370, because they know that in effect, Article 370 had lost a lot of its meaning since its inclusion in the Indian Constitution way back in 1950. It had become a shell, an empty shell. What they are more concerned, there are three things. And this is something which people and the political parties in the rest of India should know. They believe that Jammu and Kashmir has been humiliated by reducing its status from a full state into a union territory, which means a union territory that is governed by the lieutenant governor who is appointed by the center. He is not elected by the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Now it is nearly 2 years. In a few days, it is the second anniversary of the abrogation of Article 370 and bifurcation of the state of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories, that is Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh as a separate union territory. You will recall, Vivekanand ji and all of the friends, that the Home Minister had given an assurance on the floor of Parliament in 2019 itself that the statehood would be restored. 2 years have passed. The government has given no assurance as to when the statehood would be restored. This is one thing that really hurts the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Second, they have especially in Kashmir, there is a genuine apprehension that the government is trying to change the demographic profile of Kashmir by letting people from outside Jammu and Kashmir, from the rest of India, to come and settle here, buy land here, and over a period of time, reduce Kashmiris into a minority. This is the second genuine apprehension that people have. The third one, I mean, anyone who comes to Srinagar would know that there's a very heavy presence of the security forces. Almost every 50 meters along the road, there is a soldier, there is a security personnel with a gun. You don't see this in any other state in India. When we say that Kashmir is an integral part of India, they say that, why are you treating us like this? There is a sense of alienation, and that alienation is due to the fact that they are not really the masters of their own life. It is bureaucrats who are appointed from some other state, a very heavy presence of the army and the CRPF, and no accountability. So where is democracy? Of course, today, the one good thing is that at least the internet has been restored, but for more than 1 year, internet connection had been cut off. All other civil liberties were simply not there. So these are the pain points of Kashmiris, and I believe that हम जब कहते हैं कि केरल से कश्मीर तक हिंदुस्तान एक है, India is one all the way from Kerala, where Shankaracharya was born, to Kashmir, it means that all the people should be treated equally. But that is not the case. And it is the responsibility, therefore, for the people of India outside Kashmir to know the real issues. Of course, we must always oppose separatists. We must always oppose terrorists. We must also oppose Pakistan's game plan of somehow ensuring that Pakistan Kashmir becomes a part of Pakistan. वहां एक स्लोगन है, कश्मीर बनेगा पाकिस्तान. तो जैसे मैंने कहा, as I said, this must be dealt with very firmly. At the same time, the democratic rights, the human rights of the people of Kashmir must be respected.
So, as you are dealing in detail, especially since you are very much aware now or abreast with the ground reality, as you are in Kashmir, you already had a lot of interaction with the local people. So, I would like to ask you a simple question. If you can recall, since you already mentioned about Mr. Amit Shah, our Honorable Home Minister, if you recall in the year 2019, while giving a speech, or rather I would say while playing to the gallery, the Honorable Home Minister, maybe it was not a statement, measured or well-calibrated statement, when he said that we will snatch Aksai Chin, and we are not going to rest till we have till we have annexed other parts of Pakistan like POK. So from that time onward, or since then onwards, I think China took the statement very seriously, because that is what exactly so many analysts have already predicted. And since then onward, China also has been apprehensive, or has started playing a pivotal role vis-a-vis that of Kashmir. Until Mr. Shah had made such an observation, China was just a peripheral player. But in the wake of such a provocative statement, Mr. China all of a sudden had become active on the front. And even the last years, or even the confrontation, the Galman Valley clash and all that, happened because of China's apprehension on that front, that Jammu Kashmir, possibly India is overreacting on it, or India is going to impinge or infringe on Chinese territory, especially the CPEC, Chinese CPEC, Chinese Pakistan Economic Corridor. So what is your take on the overall statement of Mr. Shah? Just correlating it with the evolving situation in Kashmir, especially from the point of view of Chinese. Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanand ji, you made a very apt, appropriate reference to the speech given by our Home Minister, Shri Amit Shah, in Parliament at the time of abrogation of Article 370, bifurcation of the state, and creation of 2 union territories. The Home Minister said, and these are almost his exact words, he said that when we talk of Jammu and Kashmir, it means it includes POK, it includes Gilgit-Baltistan, and it includes Aksai Chin. And we shall not rest till we get them back. He went further, said, "Hum jaan de denge. We'll give our lives for it." Now, it is necessary, therefore, we do not have a map of the state as it existed in 1947, before its accession to India. As all of us know, it was once a princely state. And that state has many parts. It's not just Kashmir, it's not just Jammu. It is Jammu, it is Kashmir, it is Gilgit, which is the northernmost part, and on the east there is Ladakh. Today, we must recognize a very important transformation that has taken place in the nature of the Jammu Kashmir problem. Until a few years ago, whenever we thought of Jammu Kashmir problem, we thought of it as a bilateral problem between India and Pakistan. A bilateral problem. Why Pakistan? Because a part of Jammu and Kashmir, what we call POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, is with Pakistan, and hence a bilateral problem. But friends, now it's no longer a bilateral problem, it is a trilateral problem. It is not only a problem along LOC, that is a line of control, but now it is also a problem along LAC, line of actual control, that is Eastern Ladakh. One part of Ladakh, that is Aksai Chin, is with Pakistan, with China. It has been with China since the early 1950s. But by saying that we are going to take Aksai Chin back, LAC, which was peaceful, which was tranquil all these years, has now become a place of tension. So what we have done is that far from resolving the Kashmir issue once and for all by abrogating 370, we have created some new problems. And therefore, it is very important for the people of India and also politicians of India to know the problem in a 360-degree manner and not be triumphalist कि हमने 370 हटा दिया और अब problem सब खत्म हो गया, the problem is over. No, friends, the problem is not over. 370 is gone, perhaps it will never be restored. But is there peace in Kashmir? Is there peace on our borders? No. And which is why I go back to what I have written in my article in Dawn, along with the former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, that India and Pakistan together, through dialogue, through peaceful means, through non-violent means, find a lasting solution to the Kashmir issue. And similarly, India and China also have to find a non-violent, peaceful way of resolving the issue along the line of actual control, which means that China has to go back to the status quo that existed before the events of early last year.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm coming to that point which I already mentioned before we kick-started today's proceeding. Sir, you are the lone representative, if I say, in that mammoth convention on OBOR, that is One Belt, One Road initiative in Beijing in 2017. Why, when the government of India had officially boycotted this convention, you especially made it a point to be there? Was there any specific reason for the same? Could it also be construed as your act of dissent, if not rebellion, against the official decision of the government of India? Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanand, we are a democratic nation. And the meaning of democracy is that citizens have the freedom to think independently and even express their independent views. Democracy does not mean that all the people of India should entirely agree, 100% agree with any decision that the government of India takes. That is not democracy. The government of India may have taken a decision not to participate in the inaugural summit of the Belt and Road Initiative in Beijing in 2017. But that does not mean that the citizens of India also must fully agree with everything that the government of India does or decides. I personally believe, I believed then and I believe even today, that the Belt and Road Initiative, with all its shortcomings, I do not deny that there are shortcomings in the Belt and Road Initiative, but with all these shortcomings, it is to create connectivity, in many other parts of the world. But I would like to restrict our discussion to South Asia, because we are concerned first of all about South Asia, where we are located. So China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a part of the Belt and Road Initiative, in my view, good opportunity for India. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, fine.
Sorry, yeah. This is
Okay, I
internet
understand. We
problem.
appreciate you, sir.
Yeah. So I was telling you, friends, that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a 3,000-kilometer corridor of expressways, of railway lines, new railway lines, of energy networks, of industrial parks, etc., connecting Kashgar in western China, in Xinjiang province, connecting to Gwadar in Baluchistan province of Pakistan, which is on the coast of the Indian Ocean, or rather the Arabian Sea, and hence Indian Ocean. I would not like to go into, unless there is a question on this, on why they are building this corridor and what is the strategic importance of this for China. We can get into that later. But why is it important for India? Now, friends, today you know that geographically, India does not have any land access to Afghanistan, does not have land access to Iran, does not have land access to the republics of Central Asia, like Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzia, and countries in Eurasia and all the way up to Russia. We do not have land access. Now, this corridor, it passes through a part of what we call POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, in Gilgit area, and then comes to the Punjab province of Pakistan, and then goes into Balochistan and Sindh provinces of Pakistan. Now, if we join this corridor, what are the advantages of India? What is in the self-interest of India? You know, I am looking at it as an Indian. What is good for my country? What is good for my country is that if we join the Belt and Road Initiative, if we join the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, then we can demand a land access from India to Afghanistan going through Pakistan. That is Delhi, Amritsar, Lahore, Peshawar, Kabul. And from Kabul, we can go into the Central Asian republics and Eurasian republics and Russia altogether. We can also take another route to Iran. We gain access to a huge market in our immediate neighborhood. Market as well as access to energy, friends. Vivekanand ji, please remember that India is an energy deficit nation. Our highest burden on our foreign exchanges is on import of petroleum products. Now, imagine if we build these connectivities with our neighbors, we can get an energy pipeline from Iran, Pakistan, India. You know, this Iran gas pipeline has been in discussion and debate for many, many years. It has not been realized. Why? Because we have not come to any agreement with our immediate neighbor, that is Pakistan. Similarly, there is another very ambitious energy project called TAPI. Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. Turkmenistan has huge deposits of natural gas. They cannot consume that natural gas all by themselves. Even Pakistan or Afghanistan cannot consume that natural gas because they are backward economies. Which is the most developed economy in this region outside of China? It is India. India needs energy. And therefore, we can get gas pipeline from Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. We can send our products to all these new markets and of course to Pakistan itself. Now, the objection raised by the government of India is that this corridor, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, passes through POK and POK belongs to us, and therefore it is a violation of India's national sovereignty. This is the crux of our objection. Now, let's be realistic, friends. Is there any chance whatsoever that we will get POK and Gilgit and Baltistan back from Pakistan? More than 70 years have passed. We have not been able to take a single inch. Forget the nearly 60 or 70,000 square kilometers of land. We have not been able to take a single inch from it. Whether Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, 7 years of Modi ji, who is seen as the strongest Prime Minister ever to rule India, have we taken a single square in POK? So my question, I would like all the participants in this program to think rationally. Is it ever going to be possible? Especially after abrogation of 70, some of our army chiefs, they were saying India is prepared for a two-front war, simultaneous two-front war with Pakistan and China. What are we going to get out of this war? India and Pakistan have fought 4 wars, full-fledged wars so far. Has India been able to take any part of POK? Has Pakistan been able to take any part of India's Kashmir? Pakistan, which means that one day Kashmir will become part of Pakistan. Is it ever going to be a reality? Now, if this is the ground reality, that this is the point that I mentioned in my article, there is an unchangeable reality. What is the unchangeable reality? That India cannot take Pakistan, POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. Pakistan cannot take our part of Kashmir. And therefore, why are we objecting to this corridor on the basis of sovereignty? Can we not turn it to our advantage by joining the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, gain all the advantages that I mentioned, and also give advantages to Pakistan? Because Pakistan will have land access to India. They will have a big market, the Indian market. So it's a win-win for all.
Right. So in that very article about which you just referred to, there is a quotation of General Bajwa, and I quote General Bajwa as it has been incorporated in that particular article. It is a time to bury the past and move forward. It is naive to apply the failed solutions of yesteryears to the challenges of today and tomorrow. This is on March 18, General Bajwa had made this very foresighted statement, and you have also praised his statement. But sir, I have a question on this, that whether his own colleagues, military colleagues, or the ISI, are they going to share this foresighted vision of General Bajwa? How do you think that vision can be taken forward? Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanand ji, once again, you have raised a very pertinent question. Now, who is saying this? The lines that you just now quoted, and which I have quoted in my article in Dawn that appeared yesterday, it is not some ordinary politician. It is not some retired officer of the Pakistani army. It is the serving chief of the Pakistan Army, COAS, Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan. He is right now the head of the Pakistani military, General Qamar Javed Bajwa. And he is saying, addressing India, that let us bury the past and let us move forward. And the solutions or the ways of the past are not going to be helpful to solve the problems of tomorrow, today, and move into a better tomorrow. Now, this is the army chief saying. Now, if he was saying something that other people did not agree with, that person would be in big difficulty. Stands to reason, right?
Right.
That.
Okay.
And he's not the first army chief. Let's go back to Musharraf. Musharraf was also the army chief, and he later became the president of Pakistan. Now, he made the famous 4-point formula as a way of resolving the India-Pakistan dispute over Kashmir. What did he say? He says that let's make LOC, the line of control, irrelevant. It only exists on the map, but on the ground, the people of the two sides of Kashmir, let them be free to move. Let them be free to have trade. Let's demilitarize the two parts of Kashmir. And in effect, what he was saying, that there is no need for a plebiscite. Please understand the implicit change, a big change in the position of Pakistan, because Pakistan has all along been saying that the only way the Kashmir issue can be solved is by having a plebiscite, as per the United Nations resolutions. But the Musharraf 4-point formula does not talk about plebiscite. And for 10 years between Musharraf and Dr. Manmohan Singh, our Prime Minister, there was a discussion on this. There was a discussion on this formula even between Musharraf and Vajpayee ji. So Bajwa is not the first army chief. Now Bajwa is saying, once again, he's not talking about a 4-point formula, but he is nevertheless saying to India that let's bury the past, let's move forward. Now, isn't this an opportunity that India should seize? Or should India again and again be saying, oh, wo to wahan sab military ka chalta hai. Military is the, what the Prime Minister may say, what politicians may say, it doesn't matter. What the military says matters. Now the military is saying this, and still we don't seize the opportunity.
Right, sir. Sir, in this very context you mentioned about Musharraf and Mr. Vajpayee, then a question suddenly comes to my mind about the Agra summit. Your colleague then, Mr. A.S. Dulat, Raw Chief, and at that point in time, he was the advisor to Mr. Vajpayee on Jammu Kashmir. He wrote a very important book, and I have gone through the particular book that, that is the book Kashmir Vajpayee Years, where he has even referred to you in that particular book. Mr. A.S. Dulat says, or rather he believes, that before Agra summit, Musharraf's team had invested disproportionately on Mr. Vajpayee while ignoring Mr. Lalkrishna Advani in totality. And there was, of course, an adverse consequence for ignoring Mr. Advani, because as per Mr. Dulat's assessment, it was non-investment on Mr. Advani that was the root cause for the failure of Agra summit. Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanand ji, actually, this is somewhat of an academic question by going into who said what or who did what. But the fact of the matter is, the Agra summit, which had been convened with great hopes, it did not live up to the expectations. It was a failure. Maybe there should have been better planning on both sides for this summit. And the fact that it was a setback subsequently created problems for both India and Pakistan. A lot of time was wasted until almost in 2004, the same Musharraf once again assured, when Vajpayee ji went to Islamabad for the SAARC summit, he said that we shall not allow any part of Pakistani territory or any territory controlled by Pakistan to be used for terrorist activities aimed against India. It was a big promise to be given by the president of Pakistan, who's also the army chief. So what the lesson we should learn from all these lost opportunities in the past. Let me give another example of a lost opportunity, because I'm in Srinagar. In 1964, Prime Minister Nehru, he released Sheikh Abdullah. Sheikh Abdullah was kept under house arrest for a long time, almost 11 years, but he released him, and he sent Sheikh Abdullah to Pakistan to talk to the leaders in Pakistan to find a way for resolving the Kashmir issue. And even while Sheikh Abdullah was in Muzaffarabad, which is now in POK, the sad news came that Nehruji had passed away, May 27, 1964. Yet another lost opportunity. It was lost in the sense destiny took away Nehruji. There have been many other lost opportunities. The Agra summit that you mentioned was one such lost opportunity. And therefore, my humble submission is that the ceasefire that India and Pakistan both have agreed to on 25th February this year, just a few months ago, is a great decision. I must salute Prime Minister Modi ji and Prime Minister Imran Khan also for coming to this very important agreement that we shall cease fire along line of control and other sectors, which means no more killings of soldiers on this side or that side, no more killings of civilians on this side or that side. Now, this is a good opportunity. And if you see the agreement, the two sides have made a very important statement in that agreement, that they have said that we shall address the core concerns of the two countries to see that the peace is made enduring. So this opportunity should not be lost.
Thank you, sir. In course of a private conversation with me, you had confided in me that Atalji had made a great attempt to resolve into the Indo-China boundary issue, but unfortunately, Atalji, actually he lost the election in 2004, and the border resolution issue could not make another or further momentum. So why didn't his successors, first Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh or Mr. Modi now, could take such a pioneering initiative of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee forward, so that this boundary issue, which is time and time again becoming an imponderable, an issue for confrontation, issue for flare-up, would have been given a decent burial once and for all. Your take on this, sir?
India's, if we take our neighborhood, if we look at our neighborhood, we find that we have problems with our two large neighbors, Pakistan on the west and China on the north. No country in the world progresses to its full potential without peaceful relations with neighbors. Now, both in some ways are problems that we have inherited from the past, from our British past. These are not problems, be it Kashmir or China, these are not problems created by independent India. The root of the problem goes back to the British years. When the British left India, the border between India and China was unresolved. It was unresolved right from the western sector, that is Ladakh, up to eastern sector, that is Arunachal Pradesh. It's nearly 3,500 kilometers. Now, it was expected that independent India and also China, which had now become the People's Republic of China after the Communist Revolution in 1949, the two governments sit together, look at the problem, and resolve it through reasonable compromises. Unfortunately, this effort has met with many problems and even an unfortunate war in 1962. And subsequently, it took a long time for India and China to establish normal diplomatic relations and normal neighborly relations. It has once again suffered a setback with the tragic developments at Galwan Valley in eastern Ladakh. What lessons do we learn from this? The first lesson is that there is no military solution to our border problem with China. Whatever may have happened in 1962, but today, China cannot defeat India, India cannot defeat China. And resolve the boundary issue either to 100% satisfaction of India or 100% satisfaction of China. Now, because of this, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, when he was Prime Minister, he and the counterpart leadership of China at that time, they came to an understanding that let there be special representatives, empowered special representatives of the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese Prime Minister who study this problem threadbare and come up with recommendations. This happened in 2003 when our Prime Minister visited Beijing. I also accompanied him on this visit. The first special representative from Indian side was Mishra ji, trusted foreign policy they have held as many as 2 rounds of talks.
Sir, some problem at connection, I think networking.
Sorry.
Yes, now it is coming, sir.
Hello?
Yes, coming.
Okay. Sorry for this repeated disruption in internet service in Srinagar. But the point I'm making you is that is this problem not resolved so far? To not Aksai Chin can not be taken by India, and Arunachal Pradesh on the eastern sector, which the Chinese claim as belonging to them, they can never take Arunachal Pradesh from India. Broadly, if we can come to this compromise formula, the line of actual control as it exists becomes the international border with some modifications here and there. I think the problem can be solved. The Indian public should be ready for a compromise. The Chinese public should be ready for a compromise.
Okay, sir. Now I'm coming to a very important question that, sir, since time and time again in course of your replies on so many questions, you have also alluded to Afghanistan. And most importantly, Chhabar project, that is port which India was building, in Iran to access Afghanistan, that also was scuttled for no conceivable reason, because I don't find the reason behind, any suitable or appropriate reason behind scuttling of that. But that is not my point here. Sir, in the post-American withdrawal from Afghanistan, there has been, of course, a palpable tension in the South Bloc, especially pertaining to the Chinese influence, as well as some sort of collusion or complicity between China and Pakistan, which is going to disrupt India's strategic interest there. So given this high tensions, at India's policy-making level, what measure would you suggest that could end up in a win-win situation for all the stakeholders in Afghanistan? Your take on this, sir?
Once again, I want to ask you whether my voice is audible.
Yes, now it is audible, perfectly audible, sir.
Hello, is my
yes.
Okay. First of all, refer to the Chhabar port in Iran, built by India under an agreement with the Iranian government. It's a good thing. We need to have a port in that area for a number of reasons, including the important reason of getting access to Afghanistan. It is useful for India. But as I mentioned to you earlier, you will recall that access to Afghanistan is much easier through a land route cutting across Pakistan. But be that as it may, let's come to Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we all know, is today at a turning point. After 20 years of futile war, Americans are on the verge of leaving forever. They have set a date, 11th September of this year, complete withdrawal of their troops from Afghanistan. 20 years of long war on which they spent nearly $2 trillion. Several thousand of their troops were killed. Lakhs of Afghan soldiers, futile war, and the mightiest nation in the world, the United States of America, is going back defeated. Earlier, the other superpower, the Soviet Union, which invaded Afghanistan in 1979, also was defeated and withdrew after 10 years. And thereafter, of course, the Soviet Union itself collapsed. And now, the biggest superpower, America, is going back defeated. And therefore, we are now going to see a new era in Afghan history. Now, who has played the most important role in defeating foreign invasion? It is the Taliban. And all media reports say that it's a matter of time before the Taliban forces, they either capture power on their own or they become a dominant power in any new national reconciliation establishment. Now, this is a time when India should establish good relations with all those who are going to be ruling Afghanistan in future. We cannot say, oh, it's Taliban, they are this, they are that. We cannot have any relations with them. Can we say that? Do we ever say that in such and such a country there is dictatorship and therefore we don't? And therefore, in Afghanistan, the time has come to have a good dialogue with the Taliban and other stakeholders. Is my voice audible?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, perfectly.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm saying, friends, that India should establish relations with Taliban.
Again, voice has gone mute, sir. Voice is not audible, sir. Your voice is not audible, sir.
Maybe due to
Hello.
Yes, now it's audible, sir.
Hello.
Yes, yes, voice is audible.
Yeah, I'm saying that, this is a time when we should establish a dialogue with Afghanistan, with all the stakeholders in Afghanistan. We should participate in the peace process in Afghanistan. And this is only possible if we have a partnership with Pakistan, because Pakistan is also a stakeholder. Just as India is a stakeholder in the peace process in Afghanistan, Pakistan is also a stakeholder. And which is why I have said in my article yesterday that India and Pakistan should not work at cross purposes in Afghanistan, but we should work in a spirit of partnership. We should help the peace process. And we should both urge Taliban that they must change their ways. Now that they are likely to play a dominant role in the new ruling establishment in Afghanistan, extremism, terrorism, religious fanaticism is not only bad for Afghanistan, it is bad for Pakistan, it is bad for India, it's bad for the rest of the world. So these are the new ideas that we should take when we look at Afghanistan.
Okay. Sir, last question, because we are coming to the end of this very, very engrossing and electrifying session. You wrote in one of your latest articles that you evince a lot of pride to have worked for the then BJP, which was presided over by Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji and Shri Lalkrish Advani ji. And of course, not all the current bunch of its leaders who have taken over the party or who are presiding over its destiny now. So what exactly was in your mind when you made this particular observation in one of your latest articles? Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanand ji, I have made this observation in response to a speech that Lalkrish Advani ji delivered in the Lok Sabha when he was the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha and the Congress was in power. And if you listen to that speech, I regard it as one of the finest speeches in the history of Indian Parliament. And he explains the philosophy of democracy with such conviction that it impressed even the opposition, even the benches of the ruling party. And you can see that the Congress leaders, Rahul Gandhi, Pranab Mukherjee, and all others were clapping in appreciation of that article. Have you ever seen such a sight in the last 7 years?
No, no.
So, Lal Krishna Advani ji, he was one of the heroes of the anti-emergency struggle. Not many people today's generation does not know the history of the emergency. It was the darkest period for India's democracy. And many great people, especially Jai Prakash Narayan, Loknayak Jai Prakash Narayan, under his leadership, lots of people fought against it, including Vajpayee ji and Advani ji, and people from other political parties also. And therefore, these gains of democracy for which we fought after 1947 and again after the emergency in 1975-77, these gains must be preserved, irrespective of who is in power. No political party remains in power forever. And therefore, the lesson that we should draw from all that we have gone through in the last 70 years is that on democratic rights, civil liberties, ideals and values of the Constitution, we all must be united. And that is the message that I found in Advaniji's speech. And that's why I said that I'm proud to have worked for the party when it was led by Vajpayee ji and Advaniji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And one more thing, because though I would have wound up with my own observation at the end, but sir, one question straightway comes to my mind, because many of the political pundits have dubbed Kandahar fiasco as one of the lowest or one of the very adverse you can say the situation coming out of Vajpayee's tenure. But I recall Atalji, especially when the relatives of those who were taken hostage by the terrorists, when they get crashed into the Prime Minister's home or a Prime Minister's house, Mr. Vajpayee had virtually cried. And then he had commented that had his relatives been taken prisoners, he would have been happy to sacrifice them at the altar of the nation. But since it was a matter concerning the citizens of this country, as the Prime Minister of India, it was his sacred responsibility to ensure their freedom. So since I do consider Mr. Vajpayee's statement as being, not only being very, being very exalted at a very higher pedestal, but still people fault or people find some sort of deficiency in the decision making at the top leadership, especially when the situation was there to free the terrorists in Chandigarh, where the plane was stopped, as well as subsequently in Dubai, because Mr. Dobal, who is the current National Security Advisor, says he was the Intelligence Bureau's chief. He said that even Dubai, the government of India could have leveraged its own diplomatic efforts to free the prisoners in Dubai. So your take on this, sir, that what should have been done and what actually was done? Was there a big difference between the two, or was Mr. Vajpayee justified in releasing the terrorists in lieu of getting all the passengers freed? Your take on this, sir?
Vivekanandji, I do not want to go into the intricacies of that very tragic episode, which was a very difficult time for India. The lesson that we should draw from all such episodes is that we must take all necessary steps to put an end to terrorism. It was an act of terrorism. The hijack of the plane and taking it to Afghanistan was nothing but an act of terrorism. Now, unfortunately, we could not deal with that particular problem at that particular moment in a desirable manner. The lesson that we should draw is that we should tell Afghanistan very firmly, we should tell Taliban very firmly, because Taliban was instrumental in that episode. We should tell Taliban very firmly, from now onwards, we shall not tolerate any such acts of terrorism. We should be very firm with Pakistan. We should be very firm with Afghanistan that no more terrorism, no more acts of hijack, no more acts of hostage taking will be tolerated.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, viewers. Today we have heard and electrifying, answers from one of the topmost think tanks of this country. Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji, an illustrious advisor to Shri Bajpayee, the man who shaped the foreign policies under Bajpayee regime, especially Indo-Pakistan as well as Indo-China. So, sir, we are so very thankful, so very glad that despite having so much preoccupation, because you have made it a point to join with us from Srinagar, where you have gone on a land on a specific, some very specific purpose, but nevertheless you lent your invaluable time to us, sir. We have no.
Yeah, just I want to make one clarification, Vivekanand ji, because it would send a misleading and in fact wrong message.
Please.
I was not really driving the Pakistan or the China policies. I made a contribution. There were many others in the Prime Minister's office who assisted our Prime Minister. And of course, our Prime Minister himself was a great expert in foreign policy affairs. So I played a very minor role. Thank you.
So nice of you, sir. We know your humility. We know your depth. Because viewers, I would like to emphasize on this fact. I would like to watch this particular fact that as and when I go through some sort of articles and some sort of, some facts present to me as some sort of conundrum, I invariably and inevitably look upon Honorable Shri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji for the resolution of that particular, the conundrum of mine. Sir, it is, of course, what sir says is undoubtedly or unequivocally, it is, of course, a fact that many people were driving Mr. Bajpayee's foreign policy. He also played a very pivotal role in that. Nobody can deny. He wrote the speeches for Mr. Bajpayee. He played a crucial role by formulating Mr. Bajpayee's policy along with all his comrades, all his other colleagues, as what he says. So it was a pleasure speaking to you, interacting with you on such a grave issues confronting our beloved republic today. The way you came out with the straightforward answers, unambiguously, without there being an iota of any sort of deviation or any vacillation, speaks a volume about your depth, about your wisdom in terms of nation's vital strategic interest. Having been the avid reader on all foreign policies from different foreign policy experts, from C. Raja Mohan and so many other Brahmachalani on geopolitics, and of course your honored self, because I find you as a cognoscenti. So please take my statement. My viewers, don't think that I'm at all blowing Sri Sudheendra Kulkarni ji's trumpet. He is, to me, my perception, he is a cognoscenti. Because being an ITN, being a strategic expert, even the columns he writes on constitutionalism simply drives me into frenzy. I am unable to fathom his unfathomable depth in the matters, even which is extenuous to the brief that he held as an advisor to Mr. Bajpayee or as a strategic expert. Even on constitutionalism, his knowledge is oceanic, of an oceanic depth. So, sir, you gave us a time, and that too on account of your visit to Srinagar, where from even networking problem was there, but nevertheless you stood steadfastly with us without bothering to walk out, because your voice, though infrequently, but nevertheless was not audible at times, but still you steadfastly stood with us. You gave your valuable time, your valuable knowledge, the outpourings of the valuable knowledge which is going to benefit one and all civil servants, aspirants of civil servants, all foreign policy experts, those who have already been viewing this video or will eventually view this video, have got many things to learn from such a words of wisdom coming from one of the man who formulated foreign policy. Thank you, sir, and my salutation to you. Thanks, viewers from across India and world. Thank you, sir. Once again, my pranam to Honorable